Welcome back. Today we have an extra special treat for everybody, as always. Today, today's show we have on a gentleman who heads up the cannabis department of East Coast Global Insurance. He is the founder of UCAN. He is an ex-college football player. He's a friend. He is a networker. He brings people together. He's a dad. He's a husband. He is an all-around good dude. Today, I'm so excited to welcome my buddy Kyle Connolly on the show. What's up, Kyle?
Thank you very much, buddy.
I'm
excited to be on here. I'm pumped that where our friendship has gone to. Now you're my neighbor.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Even adds to the dynamic even more. And we get to experience a little bit of fatherhood together, which is kind of exciting as well too. So
that's cool, man.
I'm pumped about being on the show today. Thank you for the invite,
bro. You're very welcome. And that is actually how our friendship did grow, was because I was becoming a new dad. My wife was pregnant, or my fiance at the time was pregnant, and I had. I had heard about this group that I was in cannabis, and I was, looking to network, and I heard about this group from this person that I had known. This guy, I used to work with this guy. He started this networking group. You should go check it out. And, he's a new dad as well, or he's going to be a new dad. He might have just had his son, or when we met, or was just about to have his son.
Just before.
It was just before. Yeah. Okay. So, I went there, and I went to this group, and it was this great networking group, and I met this guy Kyle, and I remember him we had a conversation about being a dad, and I remember him just being very ready to be the dad and to do this, and he was so excited about it. And his son is a few months older than my son, so by 4 or 5 months. So I was not quite there yet. I was still a little nervous, and Kyle was full go, and I remember you gave me so much. Oh man, I shouldn't be as worried about this. This is going to be a cool thing, and I'm going to be able. I can handle this. I can, if this fucking guy over here could do it, I could do it too.
Yeah. I think one of the things was that I was trying to help prepare you for the whole ticking time bomb. Nobody tells you oh my god, the whole for me, the whole nervous part of it wasn't oh, he's coming. It was, when is he going to come? It's this can happen at any second. I'm not afraid of him being here and supporting him and loving him and being there for him and my life changing, and it really doesn't happen until you're holding him. But the whole entire time of anticipation was just that's what killed me. And I think that was one of the things that I shared with you, and you were just you text me dude, this is driving me nuts. I just want him to be here already so that I know when it's going to happen, because I can't stop my life, because I still got to continue to do things, but it's going to stop my life immediately the second I have to go to the hospital, because my wife is, her water's broken. So,
yeah.
I mean, I got fortunate enough where it happened on a holiday, 4th of July. So I was already off. I wasn't working. I wasn't doing anything. So I was fortunate enough where I was not concerned of where I was at that time, and able to go into the hospital and not have to rush anywhere to be there for the birth of my son.
Did you have 4th of July plans?
We actually had a party the night of, not at our place, but at a friend's house. And we went home, and I went to bed, and it was around 2 o'clock when my wife came and dragged me out of bed into the car, and we went off to the hospital. And a couple hours later, she had our son.
Yeah, so free plug. So Kyle and I, both our wives, work at Wentworth Douglas Hospital, and that's we had our babies.
Yep.
The maternity ward there is second to none.
Amazing people.
Yeah, amazing people. Best
very
place.
Comfortable suites. Even sleeping on the couch, the pull-out couch, wasn't bad at all. It was very comfortable, and the food there was great as well. So
yeah, food is great.
And very attentive, very, very attentive.
Super attentive. They just took care of us. They were, just the best place to have a baby. And we had a pretty traumatic birth experience. My son was done via C-section and my wife didn't. She didn't do any drugs at all. Because she's just badass. And so it was, at the end she had to get rushed out, and it was a surgery and all that. And then they brought him into me. And so, but it was just the support that we had around us was incredible. We got to even stay an extra day, which was great. Being new parents, because you don't know, man. You get this little thing, you get this little baby, and oh, hey, here you go.
Yeah,
go home now. Take care of it.
There's no directions. There's no manual that comes with it. So
Right. Yeah. No manual at all, man.
And sometimes there's no manual on for your wife and caring for your wife as well too. Like, yes, there's books that are out there that can give you a heads up on what goes on, but you don't really know until you go through and experience it. And it's stuff that like I've kind of like Dad, hey, why couldn't you give me a little bit of a heads up so I could have better prepared myself for like, hey, she's gonna need all the support, like helping her get up out of bed and stuff like that. Like, it was my first child, so I've never known. So who else is gonna like mentor me besides my dad? I'm thinking. So
yeah, of course you yell at him, right? That's how it goes. Now
he's like, I wasn't thinking like that. Now I'm like, well, I'm gonna make sure my son knows.
well, exactly. We'll prepare our sons for
Correct.
whatever, but then our sons, they'll find something else to come back and say, Dad, why the hell didn't you do this for me? You know, it's you didn't prepare me for this. You didn't prepare me for that.
I wasn't paying attention in health class in 4th or 5th grade or 6th grade either. Whenever that time was.
I'm sure that.
About all that.
I'm sure they didn't. They weren't letting the males know, like, oh yeah, like most of you, if you are a cis male, and a cis heterosexual male, you plan to have children, like you're gonna have extra support, and you're gonna need to be this person, and and every person's situation is different. Like Kayla, my partner, she's great, and she's just very strong and independent, and so like she doesn't necessarily want help. Like me helping her sometimes is like making things worse. Will make things worse. She wants to do things on her own, and it was nice because after I was able to help out quite a bit and was made feel like useful, at first. But at first too, the baby needs the mom, so that's our job as the male. If you're in a relationship where the person is the same gender as you, just the person who didn't have the trauma of having the baby, like physical trauma, the other person being there to support them.
Absolutely.
It's like it's so important.
Oh,
and
it is.
Yeah. Now with that's kind of like, with my job and like likely with your job too, it's like I can take off time, and I can take time off sometimes, and make things work with my own schedule, and I have my, but that's taking time away from the business. That's taking time away from growth. So I was like
sacrifice.
Yeah. So I was like, still working. I would like put her to bed, take care of her, and then I took some time off. I took a couple of weeks. Don't get me wrong, but then I was just was able to kind of get back into the workflow and also support her, and it was beautiful at first when we got started with this. I was, with daycare, it just wasn't happening at first because we didn't have them at where we wanted them to be, and like there was only a few days we could have them. So I was like watching them some days 1 day a week, some days twice a week, and I was like, dude, I can't. At this point, I already took the time off. I can't not work. So I started bringing him here all the time. And so like I would be doing a podcast and he, Emmett, he would be out there with, my buddy Al. My buddy Al would come and take care of him. And so it was just great, man. He'd be sitting in on meetings with me. I'd be having like high level meetings with, with CEOs of multi-state operations. And, my son would be goo gagaing right there with me. And people were cool. They were all super understanding of it, which is, a pretty cool thing. I felt grateful to the people that they like were just, weren't like, hey man, why the hell did you bring your kid on a professional business meeting?
Yeah. It takes a village to raise children. So anybody who has a child understands that. And it's, you have all of these doubts in your head or all of these thoughts in your head when you do have a child and you got to bring them along to a business setting, call it. I don't want to say like a business meeting, but people who have kids completely understand, and it is what it is. And you just you deal with it, and if it's not possible to happen because the child's not participating, everybody I think has an understanding. And if that person doesn't have an understanding, then I don't know if I want to do business with them at that point in time, because my child is going to get in the way of a lot of things going forward in my life. Business is probably going to be one of them, and I would hope that there would be some kind of level of understanding there on the personal side of things. And there are people in the business world that don't believe in that, and there are majority of people that do. So that's it.
Well, I'd agree with you 100% that it's definitely like, the people they know because they have kids of their own, and I probably wouldn't want to do business with anybody who wasn't understanding, and like, because I'm going to be understanding to that person, and that's just how I am. That's the empathy. Way to do. It is empathy, and that's a good segue, because like insurance is very much so relationship building, right? It's a very big part of the business, right? Like you can have you can have, for me, for instance, I could have tons of different people do my insurance and get and do that. But I choose to do my insurance. And this is a disclaimer. I do my insurance with Kyle. So, and that's a giddy up because he is the best. And so, but I
do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, for real, man. And so but I didn't have you on the show because you're my insurance guy or anything like that. I had you on the show because like you take it to another level of like understanding and making people feel comfortable about it, and like kind of like being another pioneer in the space, and that's what we have a lot of pioneers on the show. And
I mean, it's a new industry to the insurance world. It's not insurance isn't new to the world. And yes, insurance ultimately was created off of insuring crops, insuring farms back in like the 1800s, because you had to make sure that if your crop failed, you were able to still support your family at the end of the day. And this was, it wasn't a secret that was going to need to be something available to people down the road, because yes, you could create all these nonprofits, but at the end of the day, you need a financial instrument to be able to help support people. And so bringing insurance to the cannabis world.
Well, back in the day, it's like that. That's like it was the the farmers got together because like last year, someone's farm in town, their crop got screwed and they didn't make any money, and now they can't buy anything for the next year. Their family,
pull together their
mortgage. So is what they did is they all came together and pooled their funds together, and like the true sense of the word, like what we think of insurance, like all our premiums are being paid to this fund, and then this fund is being paid out to the people when the people need it, and hopefully no one needs it, or when people do need it, it's there and it's available.
And that's the basic principles of insurance. Now, yes, it has capitalized itself and has become into a financial behemoth, yes, and it is all about making money now in that world, and they're all financial institutions at the end of the day. But insurance, I think, brought more legitimacy to the cannabis industry because now it's a legal product. And in states, not all states, not federally, but in 47 states medically, I believe it is now approved. In 30-something states, it is now recreationally approved. So it's making its way there.
Are those numbers right? I know that it's close to like I know last time we checked, it was like 29 states, I think, were on the rec side,
okay.
And something like close to
the 40. I think it's 47. I just heard a podcast that said it was 47. That's on the med side.
Yeah, I know it's quite a few.
So we're getting there.
There's only a few that aren't on the med side.
Correct.
I'm not sure if it's 47 though, but we'll get that.
You can verify that. Yeah, don't quote me on it.
Yeah, no, it's just cool. It's cool because it's cool that we have Jacob, and Jacob's able to do that. But yeah, we're
looking at 43 for totality.
Okay.
And then it slowly goes down from, I think it looks like 4 fully legal, then it's something like 8 decriminalized, and then we go overlapping medical decriminalized, but then there's only one area where none exists. So
where it's not, where you can't get it at all.
Yes, and I believe that is Texas, where they do CBD with THC only.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a few places where it's still, some of the rules are still archaic, and
so again, that's 49 states. Then there's some. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, well, no, 43 are full. You said 43 are fully medical.
Fully. But there's 49 states a way in which somebody can get cannabis legally.
49.
There are 49 states. I believe what they just said was Alaska, but I don't think they'd have a program.
Wow. Yeah,
that's my guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, imagine it's got to be pretty hard to grow it up there, but
it'd be hard. Yeah, it'd be harder to grow up there for sure. I mean, maybe not though, because you have so much sun, so you could just take a solar operation.
Excuse me, it was in alphabetical order, so it's Alabama, not Alaska.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I just read the wrong one.
Yeah, I thought it was Alabama.
Alaska's fully legal, but of course, good luck getting it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like that. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's good up there. Maybe it's. Maybe
I mean, it is legal in Canada, so it's not like you got to be careful crossing borders.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Crossing, but national borders.
Correct. Yeah.
But yeah, man, that it's the to see the insurance company, to come like from where it was, people were farming for crops, and then to become this, massive behemoth, and now people are, realizing, okay, I still need to insure this business.
Oh yeah.
Because like that's the thing is like there's a lot of people who were, who had, they weren't legitimate businesses, but they were, and when it wasn't legal or when it was making the transition, and especially when it was making the transition, when people were a lot of the legacy people were going to the legal market, they had no, they aren't dealing with insurance, you
had a lot of people that they're not business owners. They were growers. They had a passion about either growing or manufacturing or creating a product from cannabis. And they wanted to, build a brand in cannabis around what they were passionate about. They weren't a business owner, and it's not a fault to their own. I mean, you don't know what you don't know is what how the saying goes, right? Mm-hmm. And nowadays, I mean, we're lucky enough if we're taught in high school how to write a check. So never mind being educated on, basic principles of what insurance is and why you need it, even when you buy your own car on a personal level, never mind on a business level and why you would need that. And it is really there, going back to our beginning part of the conversation of being there on the worst day or the worst year of a farmer. So the insurance agent, my value really sets in when it's that person's worst day in business, more often than not. And they don't want to be held there holding the financial bag. And that's why they have insurance, so then they can have a bucket of money to come in and pay those financial costs, whether that's being sued, their building burning down, them being robbed, somebody coming and vandalizing their property, whatever it is. I'm going to have to be there and respond to them on probably their worst business day. And that's where my value is going to be able to come in, and being able to, yes, empathize with them, but be able to move it in the right direction quick enough so that they can get that financial means so they can continue to run and operate their business, whether they need to go to another location, open up a new place, rebuild, or they need to repair glass or stuff that's been damaged, or they need to replace inventory that's been stolen, cash that's been stolen, or they're getting dragged into court and somebody's got to afford them an attorney to prove them innocent. Mm-hmm. So that is where, again, it comes full circle, where the insurance is there for your worst day. And yes, you don't ever want to use it. God forbid, you don't ever want to tap into it, but you don't want to be holding the bag for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, $1 million claim. So
yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it's a really funky industry in that, like, I know that, and as a business owner, as somebody who knows that I need it, but you hate paying the check, right? You hate giving, because you foresee it as something like something's not going to go wrong, and I bet there's a lot of businesses that never make an insurance claim. They pay insurance for their whole, for the entirety of their whole business, 40, 50 years, and they don't even make one claim.
Correct. But God forbid something happens, and I'm sure that person knows multiple business owners in their industry
that has had to go through insurance claims. Oh, 100%, dude. It's just, it's funky in that like, it's 100% a necessary thing, and that it's like a beautiful thing for capitalization to happen, for capitalism for the market to take place.
Correct.
It's really it's a good thing.
It also helps with regulating the industry as well too, and putting proper safeguards and measures in place. So the states and the cities and towns, they're going to have certain requirements of, like, you need a central alarm system, you need security cameras, indoor, outdoor, but the insurance carriers take it to another level, and they confirm that information as well too. They send somebody out there to the physical location, and they're, adding that service and saying, hey, we're not going to give you the insurance for you to be able to open up and to be able to be legitimate, because you're not doing the right things to protect yourself, to help prevent a robbery from happening, or help prevent somebody from stealing something, or help prevent, the cultivation from burning down because you don't have the right fire suppression system that's in place. So that is where it helps, take control away from, the governments, your town officials and stuff like that. Put more responsibility in the private market.
Yeah.
But that's the other flip side of the coin with insurance too, is that it sits there and it helps people make sure that, they're running the business properly, because nobody's going to insure a business that's not being run properly. Again, these are financial institutions. They're in business to make money. They're not in business to lose money. So they're trying to make a sound investment and saying, yeah, we'll insure your company in case you need $100,000 for $4,500 a year. And yeah, you may go 10, 15 years without a claim, but year 16, you got that claim. Guess what? Add up all those premium dollars, is probably less than what they paid out.
Yeah.
And that's just how the insurance, that's how it's priced. That's how it works.
100%. And I do have one question, though, because why do people get so penalized for using insurance?
For using it?
Yeah, because I understand overusing it. I get that. You shouldn't overuse it. Okay, but in this scenario, like, you're the farmer and you have you're paying in for 5 years, and then year 6, bad crop, things hit,
Well, it all
hit the fan,
depends on-
you need to use the insurance.
Depends
and then,
on the severity of the claim and the frequency of the claim too as well. So there's some people that just
abuse it, and that's probably the safeguards have to have that
correct.
it had to happen because it was so abused. Is that why? Probably why.
Yes, you have that. You want to prevent people from abusing it and doing insurance fraud and scams and all that stuff. But also, like, you don't want to be insuring somebody who just can't learn their lesson. They can't get out of their own way. They don't get it.
Right.
And so you're either going to make it impossible for them to operate because they can't afford what the insurance is, or they're not going to. You don't want to insure that person. And so, like, insurance companies will do the strategy where if they want to make themselves out of a market, they'll outprice themselves where it's, like, ridiculous. Okay, you don't want to be there because they don't want to insure that type of person.
Right.
They're not interested in that market.
Probably like what's happening with the flood insurance in South Florida right now.
Well, that's
like
why that's why you also have national programs like the flood insurance. It's a national program, so that's regulated by the federal government. And yeah, you need it, but nobody really wants to pay those out because hey, who wants to insure a business that is, or not a business, but insure a house that's in a floodplain.
That's exactly right.
Or close to the coastline. It's like,
right,
okay,
where it's happened before. It just happened 2
inevitable.
years ago. It's inevitable. It's almost inevitable. Right.
Correct. The likelihood, the probability of it happening is so great that it's like, okay, you got to have some other source that's a lot bigger than an insurance company, aka the United States, that backs the flood programs.
Right.
So, and then you have the terrorism program as well too. Like, you're not going to insure against a terrorist attack because it can be very low to happening, but when it does happen, they're not going to pay out. The insurance carrier is not going to pay out. It's going to be provided by a program by the U.S. government.
Okay, so like if a terrorist attack happened at your site, it actually wouldn't come through your carrier.
No, it would. The money eventually would come from the federal government. But
Wow.
yeah, the carrier, if you signed up for it and checked the box and said yes, I want it, yeah, they'll pay you out. But that program is ultimately funded by the federal government.
Yeah.
And that all happened because of 9/11.
Yeah, I think that's what people need to like remember ultimately too is that like insurance is it's not just like this cool thing that exists. It's also a business. It's also a business that they're trying to be that the very much so a business, and like
they're the top investors in the country.
right. I wonder if it should have always I wonder if it should have went that way though. That's like because back in the farm days, right? It was for this to pull this money together, and then maybe we could invest this money so we could grow it.
Well, eventually somebody figured that out.
Somebody figured that right.
The actuarials figured it out. Yes.
And that's who does that is the actuaries.
Yes, they are. They make accountants look very talkative. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Okay.
They are another level of an accountant. So
yeah, number people.
Very much number people. Yes.
And so they and that they're like because that's obviously what the insurance companies are now have become like banks, right? Like they take in the money, they take in the premiums, and then they have to keep probably some of that aside, that they can pay it at all times. But then they take the rest of that and they invest it so that they can grow.
They take a percentage of it, yeah, and that's where they come up with the rates. That's where they come up with the pricing. So then they know, okay, law of large numbers. Okay, we collect this X amount of premium based on the size of company, based on what this claim rate is, whatever the equation is going to equal, this is the amount of money that we can now go invest, go buy real estate with it, go invest in other companies, go buy bonds with it, whatever they want to do, but they know they'll be secure and it can stay there and be invested. Now, yes, they have to have a certain amount of reserves because they need to pay out on massive claims that happen, absolutely, but yes, it's all a calculation that happens.
Dude, yeah, it's such a fascinating business and such a interesting way to invest.
Yes, then going back to your point of you had the question of why does somebody have to pay if they have a big claim?
Yeah.
Well, so I mean, what's your car insurance on an annual basis? $1,200, $1,500.
Yeah.
Okay, you have $1 million claim.
$1 million claim. I know that.
It can happen though.
I guess. Yeah, I can.
It can happen.
Yeah,
It's very. You get in a car accident with a family, mom, dad, 2 kids in the back. They go to the hospital for severe medical issues. You're hitting $1 million easily, or one of them even dies.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Then
I've seen claims of multiple millions of dollars get paid out from a death. So that is where they kind of penalize the person that has a claim, depending on how severe and how frequent they're having claims. So, yeah, that person has $1 million claim. Nobody's going to want to insure them because they lost how much money off of $1,500?
Yeah, there's just no really, yeah, exactly. There's no getting around on it because, like, I know my friend, this person that I know, he like did the phone insurance and he did it a couple times. He did it like 3 times throughout the year, and then when he went to go get his home insurance, they said no, and they made him go through another carrier, and he had to pay like an extra like $50 a month because he was like uninsurable because he had used his insurance so frequently. Have you ever heard of anything like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, people don't want to end up like for example that example. So I mean, if they say okay, $5 a month, and you end up filing a $10,000 claim, they're never going to get their money back.
Right.
Off of $5 a month. So no, they're not going to want to insure that person, and that's what happens unfortunately when claims do happen and arise. Insurance carriers can decide to drop you. The contract's only good for a year. So, I mean, once there's the effective date of your policies on the commercial insurance side is up, I mean, the carrier has a choice to sit there and say, okay, is this a good financial decision to continue to insure these people, or do we drop this operation? So they have the ability to non-renew you. They have to give you a notice of 30 days. And yes, there is someone who will provide the insurance, but I can't guarantee what that price will be.
Right. And that must have been so funky at first for all these insurance guys, all these blue blood insurance guys who have been doing it forever, and then cannabis becomes an industry. And it's like, whoa, because it's federally illegal, right? So like immediately,
where do you get the money? How do you get the money?
How do you get the money? Right. So it's like, you gotta create it. You'd have to create it like you did back in the day from the premiums, from the people.
Yeah. And I mean, just from an exclusion standpoint, a lot of the policies, your basic general liability policies couldn't be used because it excluded anything that was against the law on a federal basis. So all of these had to be redone and had to be rewritten on a state and local level as well. And those exclusions removed from it being, an illegal product, because nationally, cannabis is still illegal.
Yep.
So any claim that would arise from an illegal product, breaking the federal law, they would not cover. So that was something that came about really soon, really quickly, as the insurance world opened up in 2017 to it and started providing commercial products to insure the industry. That soon became an issue, and that soon got solved. But so yeah,
that's when it happened. Was 2017.
That's when they started to insure cannabis operations. Yeah, it was 2017.
And so before that, no space was insured, and wow.
No, they were running uninsured.
Wow.
Pretty much just self-insurance is what they call it.
Self-insurance, yeah, right. Yeah.
Whatever you got in the bank.
Yeah, whatever you got in the bank. I mean, at that point too, it's not. I guess it would. Now it's like back then. It's people were just starting a venture and like really getting it going, and
but nobody knew if it was going to stick.
Yeah.
And then each states caught on. More states caught on. More states caught on.
Is there anything that's similar to cannabis in that that it's had to been done out at like the state level like that, where something is like federally illegal, and then you have to break it down through the states like they've had to?
I think this is a first.
Cool.
Unless you go back to prohibition.
Yeah, like because there was obviously some serious hangups with prohibition, and insurance must have been crazy through that. That must have been a wild time.
Yeah, was not alive during that time period. Don't know of anybody who was, I don't think, alive in insurance during that time period. So
right.
But that, I think, would be the only other example I could think of. Where you have the dam laws, which are a little different in each state and city when it comes to liquor. Each one has their own little twist to a point, but a lot of similarities across the board.
Yeah.
And that's where the cannabis laws they were first looking at was can we structure it like this? So I'm not on the regulation side. I just focus on the insurance side of things, and I do pay attention to what's going on because yes, the regulation side, like the Safe Banking Act, and the Safer Banking
you
Act.
have to pay attention to it, right? Like what's going to happen with Safer? Like so, the Safe Banking Act.
So I know the Safer Banking Act adds more protection to the financial institutions that would be supporting the cannabis operations from a banking standpoint, whether that was lending or providing them with an account, and protecting them from being somebody going after them for supporting cannabis operations, or them getting a bad name or a bad rap or anything like that. So hurting them from a publicity standpoint as well too. So I don't think it's passed yet, but I know that it was up to the. I think it's past the Senate.
So the
and it's up to the House now, right?
Well, so how it is it's the bill's been drafted, but it hasn't actually been put forth. It's passed committee, but it hasn't gone to the floor yet and been voted on the Senate because the people who wrote the bill are ensuring that they have 100%, that they don't want it to get fucked with. They want it to make sure that it passes. And so like with the election and all the Israel and Ukraine and everything that's happening right now, they're trying to be like very strategic, or at least this is the mouthpiece. This is what they're saying. They're trying to be very strategic with when they pass it. The House of Representatives is a fuck show right now in terms of cannabis because it's a mess. They just did the speaker thing. The speakership took so long to figure out. We didn't have a speaker there. If we don't figure stuff out by like November 17th, the government will shut down again because that was just an extension based on from before. It is a Republican GOP majority right now, so that's also that sometimes can be with they're not always the cannabis people, although that is changing. So it needs to be able to. They won't put it to the floor until they know that it's going to pass the House and pass the Senate. And so they're just kind of like in the back room doing their thing right now, and they're waiting to when they bring the bill to the floor. And it will give people access to bank accounts and to which will then make more.
It
further legitimizes it. Yeah, and same thing
especially
with
for the ancillary businesses. So like your
banks.
attorneys, your CPAs, your banks, the insurance carriers, and stuff like that. So with that Safer Banking Act, if that gets passed and goes through, there's going to be more insurance carriers that will now jump on because it's now it's becoming more legitimate.
Yes.
Which you just go to Economics 101, supply and demand. The more supply that there is, the more carriers that there is by bidding for people's business, the lower the price is going to come down, which is going to be good for the cannabis operators and the price of insurance. Those that have had clean slates and not have had claims.
There's how many carriers are offering insurance right now?
I mean, every day changes. A new one can enter the market today.
Yeah.
But roughly, I believe there's probably about 8 to 12 carriers that are in there for either they just do monoline GL, or they do package, or they do monoline property, which just means they just specialize in one line of coverage.
GL, I'm guessing, stands for general liability.
General liability, correct. And then you have your property insurance as well, too. So there are carriers that like to just write a certain type of a policy. They won't give you the whole entire package, but they may be very aggressive on that line of business. So there's sometimes where we'll tell people to use a monoline because it makes sense. But then there's the ones that, we'll do the whole entire thing all together and makes it very simple, packages it in, kind of like a bundled deal, like you do your home and your auto, so you get your property and your general liability all together. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you can also get your business auto. But that one has been a little bit out there where it's just been monoline as far as the carriers for that coverage. But
so about 8 to 12, and then... But if the Safer went through, that number might skyrocket to like 100.
No. It's not going to skyrocket to 100.
30?
I think you'll slowly see some more players get involved and get into the marketplace. And that means probably another 10 to 15 will trickle in the next year. And then you'll see probably 20 to 30 more trickle in after that. And you'll see everybody get on board once it goes federal. But you will not see your big behemoths like your Liberty Mutual, your Travelers.
Yeah, same thing as the banks. Like even if this goes
Bank
through,
of America,
they're not coming to play. Like even if Bank of America, Citizens, those guys, they're not. They're not coming to play with cannabis.
And that's
not
why I
for
say
a long
it's
time,
not going to be the floodgates.
Until it's federally legal.
Yeah, the floodgates are not going to open, but there's going to be more trickling in.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be able to get better. They're going to be able to get funding. They're going to be able to get money. They're going to be able to have support.
Yeah, so. The descheduling as well will likely help a lot of this in terms of from my point of view. If I was a person who ran an insurance company and I was looking at risk management, I would say, if it's now gone, before it was a Scheduled 1 drug, meaning there's no medical use for it. If now they're admitting and they're saying it's a Schedule 3 drug, there is medical use. It may not be federally legal yet, okay? But at least there's that as well. So now I'm going to go play. Now I'm going to go into the market and I'm going to offer cannabis insurance. Do you have any opinions on the rescheduling?
I really think it's going to all fall on it just becoming federally legal. So I mean, the rescheduling of it doesn't mean that it becomes federally legal.
No, it doesn't.
That's ultimately, I think, where that trigger point is going to fall.
I don't know if it's going to become federally legal for like 10 years,
It may not.
maybe 20, like who knows how long it's going to take,
It may not, but
there's going to be a lot of lobbying against it, from people who are like in the industry.
Yeah, no, I mean, conversations that we've had with those types of carriers, because we ask and we check in all the time, because they're going to be, once it happens and they're able to, they're probably going to be very competitive in the marketplace, and someplace we're going to want to get quotes from. But what we've been told is until it becomes federally legal, that's not really, their stance isn't going to change. And then you're also going to have the stigmatization that's going to like hold people back. So I don't think you're ever going to see the floodgates in the insurance world, completely open up, just like I don't think you will on the banking side. I think, over the next 100 years, eventually everybody will have. Yeah, every bank will accept it. Every insurance carrier will probably have a product for it. But in the next 15 years, no, I don't think so.
Right. So weird. Now, a lot of these policies, are they now, because you talk about like a product, and that usually, like, you have these monoline product and these mono, carriers that have they've created this insurance packet and they offer it for like a convenience store, or they offer this one for a gas station. With cannabis, like there's different assets of the business. There's a dispensary, there's a grow, there's a product manufacturer. So like, are you still very much so like creating, is there packet policies now available for cannabis providers?
There's commercial package policies available for all types of providers that are in the industry, that are in the cannabis.
So we've gotten to that point. That's what I'm asking. Okay.
Yes. You've gotten to that. Now there are ones that like to insure cultivations over manufacturing operations over, dispensaries. I think dispensaries are the lowest risk. You can the real big ones that stand out as far as claims with dispensaries is theft. And robbery, and vandalism.
Would you say that's because I'm curious about that. So that's obviously like the threat, right? Because like same with banking is like, these people are, having to put, there's no Brinks
heavy.
trucks, there's cash heavy, there's a lot of cash, they're having to, do these transfers on their own. There's a lot of, there's a lot of cash on site, so like, but I'll tell you what, like I know we live, in a safe place in Maine, and I know Massachusetts is very safe too. And I haven't seen any of this stuff take place. And I know Massachusetts is pretty locked down in how it operates, more so than Maine, but like
there have been robberies. They weren't recent, but there have been robberies that have happened. There have been people that have attempted to break into dispensaries in the state of Maine that I know of.
Okay.
And brief shout out to Tetra Point. There is a provider that's out there that is a cash carrier service for these dispensary operators, and they're ex-military, ex-police officers. I mean, the owner himself is a ex-Navy SEAL. And they take it very seriously. They're all trained to be able to handle high pressured situations that involve a lot of money and unfortunately lethal weapons as well involved in that conversation. So they are highly trained people, and they specialize in transporting the cash from the dispensaries to the credit unions in Maine and in Massachusetts for these dispensary owner operations. So for those that are a little concerned on the cash and being cash heavy, there is an operator that is out there. There is a service provider, Tetra Point, that's out there that will provide that for them.
I don't want to disparage Tetra Point themselves or any of the ex-military or police officers volunteering, but I'm not trying to be funny. Isn't what you're describing organized crime with more steps? We if we have a private security system to take care of my private money banking because I'm not allowed to legally move that money, we're bootleggers with more steps.
Oh yeah,
that's bootleg money with more steps.
But I mean, how else are you going to protect that kind of?
I don't have a good counterpoint to that. I just was mentioning it feels like they're criminalizing something that we legalized just with the money.
And imagine what credit cards would be able to do that. Now, I don't want to say that because of Tetra Point. I mean, I want them to continue to make the money.
No, Tetra Point is a good business because they're
not the point I'm making.
They're not the problem, right? They're not the problem. The problem is the system. Exactly. They're solving a problem in the short term that shouldn't even exist. Is what Jacob is saying.
No, agreed.
Yeah, it shouldn't exist.
And even on that, I mean, you even looked at just the legalization of it. So we're sitting right now in the state of New Hampshire that to the north of us, to the east of us, to the south of us, to the west of us, it's all legal. So, I mean, it's kind of like, come on, New Hampshire, let's just make this thing legal. But I was just in a vape store locally, and I saw on the counter, it looked like weed, it looked like bud, and it said HHC on it. And then next to it was CBD. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, what do you mean? I go, what is HHC? I've heard of
Got to
THC.
be the Delta 8.
I've heard of CBD. I mean, he goes, oh, it's Delta 9. I'm like, so you guys are trying to push Delta 9, which is synthetic stuff at the end of the day, and it's being encouraged because it's all legal around the borders of New Hampshire, and it's kind of like that's what you're encouraging for business owners to be able to get that market share that's leaving, that's going over the borders because they see that money and they want that money. So it's kind of like, hey, I understand you want to take your time and you want to do this right, New Hampshire, but in the meantime, something could go wrong. So it's not something that I would be, I wouldn't encourage people to be selling the Delta 9, especially in the state of New Hampshire. But that's, it's just encouraging that bad behavior. So
Now, I just want to make sure that we're getting this right. It's Delta, the Delta 9 is what's legal, is what's illegal federally.
because of the weight, because it's derived from the hemp plant.
No,
so-
that's Delta 8.
No, and Delta 9. It's both.
No. So people are getting so when they made like cannabis THC, illegal.
Yeah, the Farm Bill. Yeah.
Not the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill changed things by making CBD legal, so that by THC was illegal and so was CBD, cannabidiol, and so tetrahydrocannabidiol. Those were both illegal, and the difference is that the double bond is on the carbon. The double bonded carbon goes from the 8th carbon to the 9th carbon, and there's plenty of Delta 8 occurring in natural THC in THC and in smoking plants, but it's not what is it's not to the same extent. So as what they did was it's not to the same quality. It's very, very minute. It's like 0.3%.
Well, that's what the weight is.
It's to sort of, you're absolutely right, Steve, but then it's more of marketing. So Delta 8 was illegal or whatever, and if you rebrand it as Delta 9, that's not under the law.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So that's
it's
more of a
synthetic. And they're changing the chemical composition
Yes.
of it, but they're because Delta 8 and Delta 9 are different. So now that they're selling this Delta, so Delta 8 is what the traditional
Correct.
and then Delta 9 is what the Delta 9 is what they're selling. And so there's two ways to get this. So there's you can get it from hemp, so you
Yes,
can process
hemp-derived.
what hemp derived, meaning you could take what would normally give you just what you get out of 1 pound to get the to get THC Delta 8, you would need to use 100 pounds of hemp to get that same amount of the Delta 8 of the derived Delta 9 of the hemp derived Delta 9. Another way that you can do that, and the reason that this was figured out is because there was a ton of CBD that was just lying around everywhere. People had tons of access to it because of the 2018 Farm Bill. And people realized that through a chemical synthetic process, you can convert that CBD to Delta 9. And that exactly, and so by converting that then it's a lot cheaper than because CBD you can get a liter of CBD for $100.
Oh, yeah.
And so you take that you take the Delta 9 and you go down in a lot of states like in Florida and places where it's illegal, like New Hampshire's obviously trying to do it, and they have full shops. They have vapes, they have Delta 9 vapes, they have Delta 9 edibles, they have Delta 9 flower, HHC they were calling it.
I mean, Wink is doing it.
Wink is doing it, but they're doing it from the hemp-derived standpoint.
Correct, and you have a lot of the infused beverage lines are looking into this, or if not already doing it.
Because Wink is already doing it because it's so smart. Because you
can get into all the illegal markets.
You're in 50 states. Go online right now. It's obviously something Dr. BeeWell's thought about, right? We've thought about. The thing that I don't like about it is that you'd have to have a lot of control of the hemp that's coming in because it does really affect the taste, and I wouldn't do it synthetically. And synthetically, that makes it a lot, it's pretty expensive to do it the other way.
You welcome unknowns.
Yeah, you welcome.
It also ruins the high. Those people who are in these illegal markets who are brand new to the cannabis world, are gonna finally, end up with real legal cannabis in 2, 3, 5 years and go, what the F was I smoking? Or drinking or whatever it was, because it's just not the same. It's bad product.
Yeah, I've heard some that it's bad product in terms of the smoking stuff, and I do wonder about that because I wonder if it's not hemp derived, they were actually spraying distillate on CBD flower, and then you're just smoking the distillate this which was CBD and then was converted to Delta 9. But I do wonder, like, I have heard from some people that they like the edible better, that they get a better feeling from Delta 9 edibles than they do from Delta 8. And then there's also, guys, you got to understand, there's Delta 10, there's Delta 11, there's Delta 13. It just depends on where the double bond is on the carbon. And we're going to keep moving it, and a lot of these are going to be psychoactive. And so, like, it comes down to a legality thing as well. So, like, I do agree. I think it's not necessary unless you're doing it like from the hemp derived, like piece. It's not cannabis. It's not, you're synthetically making this. And then when you're synthetically making something, I do agree that there's a decrease in product. There's a decrease in product somewhere. But it's really fascinating. It's fascinating, and to see a company like Wink, somebody who is pretty serious and established in the market, go that route, I was like, wow, okay, that they're doing it. I mean. Oh, yeah. We were able to have them here, because it's something you can give out. It's something you can have legally, and it's, that's what they do. They go to bar. It's a great idea. It's a great business. For them, I think it's
a great alternative too, as well.
Well, that's the thing, is it really is like it's a great alternative to drinking. Drinking is bad. Drinking is bad, and drinking
There's really no health benefits to it.
There's no health benefits to it, right? And like cannabis, can be bad, for sure, but it can also be really great and can also be really helpful, and there can be medicinal benefit. That's literally what we're talking about in the rescheduling, going from 1 to 3. So I am just going to be super fascinated to see like what happens with that, and I can't believe we were in a vape shop today in New Hampshire. And
well, not today, but this was like 2 weeks ago.
Okay, 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And HHC.
HHC.
What was that? What did that stand for?
They just told me it was Delta 9. So I'm like, what is that? That's what I asked. I'm like, what is HHC? And they're like, Delta 9.
Yeah. Did you pick any up?
No, absolutely.
We'll have to pick some up and smoke it and see what it's like, because that's the thing. It's like
what was it? Spice back in like the high school days.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I know, but
that's what it like.
That I can see. It's definitely not the spice.
It's not the same.
But I agree. It's like you're spraying.
If
you're spraying something, if you're spraying something there, and like, but then you want to know what are you feeling that way because it's not a dispensary and it's a smoke shop? And that's the whole thing, is like, are we over-regulating cannabis? Does it need to be, so regulated to the point where we know every single little thing? And it does, because but like, it's food at the same time, like.
Well, that's where you get the legal part of it all, and it's because you want to make sure that if somebody buys your product and they understand what it's made out of and what's in it and everything else like that. That way that they know, okay, I'm allergic to something that's in here or I'm not.
Right.
So that's more of why they have to have all the descriptions and do the testing and all that stuff. And I mean, it's also a federally legal drug, so they're gonna make you go and jump through extra hoops and everything else still and all that stuff. So. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they test tobacco to the same extent. I don't insure tobacco, but I don't know if they test it to the same extent. But they give you they give you even more warnings about your health about it. So
yeah, they definitely give you more warnings about your health.
That's their out of court of, you got cancer from smoking cigarettes. Well, we told you in huge letters your entire life you smoked cigarettes that you're gonna get cancer. So
right.
Sue us for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is it's gonna go on labeling of cannabis as well too, which. Some people may have an issue with that because of their beliefs of the cannabis plant and what it can provide for people and the healing power of the plant. They may be against putting the word cancer on their product at all.
Yeah, that's never going to happen. But do you see, I don't think the cannabis people would ever allow that to happen for cancer to be.
That this can
cause cancer. Okay, yeah, right. I mean, the smoking inhalation.
I mean, the people that want to go federal will do it.
Yeah.
That's like one of those technicalities, though. Like, inhaling any smoke for any extended period of time will absolutely cause cancer.
Correct.
Because you can only breathe oxygen.
Yes.
That's like saying breathing in water will make me drown. Like, no kidding. But that doesn't. That's not. It's not the same as the nicotine and the carcinogens and the rat poison that's in cigarettes, literally creating cancer.
Correct. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
It's
but
semantics.
They're going to need to tell people that it can cause, because it can.
Well, they need to prove it first.
Well. I mean, just the
argument
there was...
He is saying, but with cancer, that it's a tough thing that they'd have to show. I mean, I'm not out here saying that...
The research has got to be there to support it, but at the end of the day, it's going to be what the courts are going to mandate and what the courts are going to tell you to do and what that price tag is going to tell you to do.
Yeah, for sure. You're right. And
so there's going to be the go-hards that are going to stand their last ground. I know that. I mean, but then there's going to be the ones that are they're business sophisticated. They get it. They know, okay, you want to pay to play. That's got to go on my labeling, and that's just how it's going to have to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, dude, but it's like, it's, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I agree with you. You got to do it to some extent, but, like, alcohol causes cancer, and you don't see it on that label. It's like, it's very clear, liver cirrhosis, liver cancer, like, very clear, and, like, you don't see it on that label. You don't see it on all these food labels, like, cancer. Like, they specifically went after the tobacco industry because tobacco was fucking getting over on everybody for a long time, giving the shit to kids, poisoning them and just making it seem like it was the best thing ever, smoking everywhere in hospitals. And so then it was kind of like oh, fuck you guys. We're going to actually make you put this on your package forever because you guys are, you killed so many people.
Cannabis is ugly stepchild. Ugly stepbrother. That's just what it is. It's just, what else are you going to compare it to? It's a plant. Tobacco's a plant. Natural plant.
Right. Yeah, but it's not the natural plant. If you're just smoking to Jacob's point, if you're just smoking the tobacco, if we were still smoking the cigarettes that they were smoking in the 1800s, cancer wouldn't be happening as much, dude.
Agreed.
They've made it a thing.
But I'm just saying, right now,
addictive...
your consumer nowadays, your average consumer nowadays, you're going to compare the same exact thing.
Yeah, they're going to compare cigarettes to cannabis, you're saying?
As far as how it's a similar product. It's not like, yes, one is a completely different plant than the other, but the way that it's sold and packaged is in a very similar way, is how I should say.
Yes and no. You're not getting a 20. You are starting to get some of the 5 and 10 packs of pre-rolls.
You still smoke it. You roll it up and you smoke it.
Yeah, you roll it up and you smoke it. But I'm saying like the pre-formed, 20 packs of cigarettes. You got to inhale it. Yeah, the route of administration is still an inhalation.
Kyle, not to go around you, but I think it might help Steve grasp the point a little stronger. Do you remember the other conversation we had several episodes ago? I want to say... No, I'm not going to remember who it was. But we were talking about how, because you don't want to put this package because you don't want to sell it to children. And I said, yeah, but we do live in a society where that same child can get 35 Kit Kats and 10 packs of Red Bull, and I can't, as the guy at the cashier, ask him for an ID or anything.
Yeah.
I just got to hand it over. So it's basically, we're trapped in who won the lobby. And we lost. The marijuana lobby lost back in the day. And so now we have to come from the shadows however they decide we come from the shadows, whether it's right or not.
Right, yeah, that's all I'm saying, and it does make me. It's not exactly. It's just not right, I'm
not saying that the scientific say. I preference from the beginning, the legal side of it all.
Right.
It's not. Science isn't going to tell you that. It's going to be, well, again, you got to have your research, but it's going to be the legal people. They're going to tell you. The courts are going to tell you. The state is going to tell you. They're going to mandate you. You need to say this on your warning package, otherwise.
You can't do it, right.
But then that also, the insurance carriers are going to make you do that too, going back to the insurance world, because the insurance carrier is not going to want to be the ones in court paying a $10 million lawsuit because somebody, God forbid, developed cancer from smoking 2 joints every single day for 15 years.
Yeah. You want to know
because they didn't say it on the warning package.
Yeah.
That's just what it boils down to.
I know that's the world. It's the world we live in, and it's a shitty world to live in. And it's like that person who was smoking 2 joints a day and then gets cancer and sues the like fuck you.
It's like the guy that smoked a pack of cigarettes every single day of his life and then got cancer and tried to sue the tobacco industry.
Yeah, the guy who didn't know, depending on when that happened, if it happened before the warnings, I guess,
Correct.
But like that now we know. Now it's out there, right?
That's why they
we
created
know that
the
smoke.
warnings.
Exactly. Now we know smoke causes cancer and doing this.
Tobacco company went out of business because they got sued big time and lost.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure, man. It's definitely the smoking is bad and that's why edibles are better. Just get
alternative methods.
Alternative methods. Get your edibles.
Correct. Yeah. No. No. Just finding safer methods to do it. Give your body a break.
Definitely give your body a break.
Definitely just like over abusing and using it over and over again. It's just not healthy for you in a lot of ways. But
yeah, with anything, it's like, you want to take a break. Like, it's like I like to smoke the plant and stuff, but I don't do it all the time, and I definitely take 30 days off here, 30 days off there, just to re-regulate myself and to get my lungs healthier. And, it's like I could probably do even more, but it's like, it's
correct.
I am trying to also like enjoy my experience here on Earth, and cannabis makes it a better experience sometimes. So
it does.
There's that. So I think that's cool, man. And I'm hoping that people are seeing from the conversation that we're helping them see that like insurance is in cannabis is like this. It's a great thing. You don't have to be scared of it. It's a thing that you should be able to help your business, because if you're running a good, true, honest business, then you might need these things in the future.
It's a tool. It's a tool, just like anything. You just got to understand how it works. And that's where I think I take my days being a financial planner for the first 8-9 years of my, adult life, being in the real world and working. I take that and being able to understand complicated financial instruments, your annuities that change all the time, whether they're fixed, they're structured, they're indexed, and being able to sit down and explain that, this product here doesn't change as frequently as the stock market does or your interest rates do. And so it's easier to pick up on it, an endorsement that comes out that ultimately changes all of the policies and the meanings of the underlying coverages and what's covered and all that stuff. It's easier to understand than the market changing every day. So taking those skills of being able to explain complicated financial instruments has helped me in being able to help people understand how these policies work, and use it as a tool to them. Yeah, when you're sitting there and you have half your crop fail and you're looking at losing $250,000 in revenue that's not going to come in through the doors in the next 60 days, unless you've been really diligent about saving your money and not spending it, or you have no interest in, investing in other businesses or investing in your business and, having another thing going on the side building. I mean, you got to have insurance. You got to have a financial tool to be able to have access to a bucket of money, to be able to inject into your business, to keep it afloat, to be able to go. I mean, that's what insurance is for, is to make you whole again, not to make you money.
Right.
But
to return you to where you were before anything went wrong.
Correct.
Yeah, man. That's the thing. And it's like, it's it does.
But then also on the flip side too, you have these investors that have been involved as well. So a lot of these guys can't afford $1 million facility, so they've got investors' money. So at the end of the day, sometimes it's not the cannabis operator, it's not all their money. So if something goes wrong, the thing burns down to the ground, how are you going to pay back all your investors?
Exactly. If the investor decides that cannabis isn't a good venture anymore, and he sends his team in there to burn the place down, because he wants his money back, he needs to make sure it's insured.
We won't talk about.
There's got to be a lot of fraud, right? That happens in insurance, dude.
No, there used to be, but like at the beginning, obviously, and as technology has evolved, things have gotten tighter, and I mean, they are.
You're telling me there's not people burning their houses down anymore? They're
trying
to
get away with it?
Yeah.
I mean, they have their suspicions. People have been doing it for a long time, so these insurance carriers, they have teams of people that they have that are experts, investigators. Right? They pay a lot of money to save them.
Hey, cocksucker, you burned your house down. I know you did.
A lot of money to be able to prove that they don't have to pay a claim. Okay? Insurance carriers hate paying out claims. They don't want to.
Right, it's their money.
Correct. They want to hold on to it.
Right.
They want to keep it. They don't want to have to separate with it. But, I mean, they hire teams to do that stuff.
Right. Yeah. So there's no getting around it, really. It's harder to do now. You have to be really, really rich.
You get the one-offs. If somebody's
of course. Right.
really, really smart, sophisticated, understands what they're doing, knows all the ins and outs and all that stuff, sure.
Right.
But
so like when me and you do our big insurance fraud, we'll be good because I got the guy on the inside. I'm just teasing everybody.
Yeah.
But no, that there is. I do think that stuff sometimes. I think like I see a couple of buddies who have gotten successful in business, and you wonder where their initial capital came in, and how did you get that house that you bought that only cost $140,000 for it, but then you put in these beams that you found on like Marketplace, but then it burned down and you got it, and now it's now these beams were from this time period and it's even more money, and it's like I've seen this stuff happen in real time and people make like, and then be able to juice that money up into their business. And
there's a joke where if your house is burning down, you take everything that's in the yard and you throw it into the fire as well too. That's just in the insurance world. And
yeah.
You just if your neighbor's house is burning down, you better start throwing your stuff
in it. And maybe this
too.
was just a luck situation where the person didn't realize that what they were giving away when he had installed them into his house or whatever.
Like I said, there's sophisticated people that are out there, but I'm just saying the everyday person is not going to get away with it.
Right. Yeah.
And there's teams. They're trying to position themselves where they don't pay out money unless they have to.
Right.
Nobody wants to just give away $100,000.
Right. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So, and they'll gladly pay somebody $75,000 to keep the other $25,000.
Exactly. Right. And you know what? They'll probably pay $100,000 to keep that $100,000 just for principle. Yeah, exactly. And just for the business and like, it's fucked up. And that's how we are. That's human beings, and it is a necessary thing. And like, just don't do insurance fraud, and insurance people, be nice to the people that you're serving. That's the like Kyle. That's why I like Kyle, because Kyle does good business. He takes care of the people. He finds you the best rate. He and like I feel like some of these fucks, these people that I've dealt with in the past, they're and that's not to put a bad thing on the industry as a whole, but I feel like some people, maybe they're just not as educated as you are, or the way that the way that you propose it, or something.
I mean, every industry has its bad seeds. I mean, you can't sit there and say that every industry is all good stuff. So industries have their bad seeds, and unfortunately, in today's society, they get most of the publicity.
Right. Yeah. It's true.
Most of the attention on how that happens. But I mean, yes. There are some people that do take advantage of it. Very much not so on purpose. I think it's done by accident because people they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand how much education has to go into understanding the industry itself to make sure that the product's going to be able to respond to the exposures that are out there, and not just take a phone call and say, hey, I'm a cannabis operator. I need general liability. You go and you find a carrier, you plug it in, you do everything, but you don't, read through the exclusions. They're called specimen forms, but you don't read through them all. Understand where the exclusions are, where the coverage falls, and everything else, and be able to, you got to watch out for this, or you got to make sure you have these safeguards in place. If you don't have a safe that's rated for 4 hour or for an hour worth of being in a fire and isn't 550 pounds and bolted to the ground, you're not going to get this coverage.
Right.
Somebody who is not taking that attention to detail and just pushing paper across, they're not meaning to hurt the person. They did what they were told, but they're not taking it to the extent of making sure, hey, by the way, this exclusion here for the safeguards, you need all this stuff in order to get paid out the way you want to if a claim happens.
That's what separates a good insurance guy from a bad insurance guy, is the guy who actually goes through it, understands, like, hey, man, I came to your business, I was at your site last week, and, like, I saw this shit based on an exclusion, and, like, you need to be doing this because you're going to fuck yourself, and if something happened, you'd lose a lot of money.
Or the questions. I mean, one thing that I've learned is if you are talking to an insurance agent and they're not asking you a lot of questions, walk away. The more questions that they're asking you, the more they understand, and the more that they need to be, the more that they're putting it all together to be able to present your business to the insurance carriers. But that means that they're getting a full, like, in-depth, they have knowledge of the subject. If they're just asking you a handful of questions, it's not a good sign. Now, I get it. Business owners are very busy. They don't want to get bogged down, but, it's a good sign if somebody's sending you 30 questions. As long as they're not repetitive or rephrased in a different way. Yes, those do happen. But, I mean, if they're detailed and, like, the questions make sense, take the time, do that, answer it, because they're a good agent.
Yeah,
They know to take it to that extent. Where if you're getting a handful of questions and you've not had any phone calls or not an extensive conversation with the person before about your business, I'd raise some eyebrows because do they fully know what I'm doing? Do they understand where all this is coming from? How in depth are they getting into? Like, are they going and asking who your third-party manufacturers are? Are they asking where's that product come from? Where are they getting all their stuff from? Because there's a layer of protection that needs to be put in place from the insurance side as well too as you. And a lot of people don't know this, and people won't just go divulge and say, hey, to protect you from me from screwing you, you want to do this.
Right.
Not very many people are like that go, hey, look, you want to name me as an additional insured, you want to name yourself as an additional insured on my policy to help protect yourself. Now, a lot of people want to take that risk on voluntarily, but people just aren't educated to know that.
So you're saying that, like, you would put the agent on the insurance policy, you're saying?
Oh, not the agent, but you would put your business on that other third-party manufacturer.
Oh, exactly. Yeah,
correct.
Right. Okay, yes, exactly.
But not every agent, if you're not asking about it, they don't know to tell you that.
Right. Yeah. Right. That makes sense.
So you're leaving yourself exposed.
You're leaving yourself exposed. Exactly. And that's funny because it's like, that's something that I learned, through other people requesting it of me. Being like, oh, hey, can you put me on your insurance policy? And then me being having, okay, that's something that I need to do and need to, make sure that that's a
And I love how it's such a, it's such a new concept, and fought against concept a little bit in the industry. But if you go to any basic retailer, you go to Walmart, you go to Walgreens, you go to CVS, you want to put your product on their shelf, they're going to tell you, let me see your certificate of insurance. Let me see your insurance that you have on your product, and then you can put your stuff on our shelf. It's very, very, very simple business practices. Very simple. But it's that it wasn't it's not practiced in the industry. It's just something that, the state doesn't tell me I have to do this. But every other business, every other industry does it. So to me, being an insurance agent, this is normal. This isn't anything that's out of the norm. Yes, you should be doing this. But it forces people to buy the product who don't want to buy the product. Where then
would CVS ask the person who's putting their product in the shelf to name them on their policy?
Yeah, as an additional insured.
And would CVS name that person? How many people does CVS have them on their policy?
So CVS is going to be the one that asks for them to be named on the other person's policy.
I'm going to ask CVS to put my name on there.
They're not going to, because
then why should I do it?
They're not their manufacturer, because you want to get in their shelves. You can't get on their shelf without it.
Yeah, because in that terms of them being them, if they're not, if I'm the manufacturer, right? But if they're the manufacturer.
If they're the manufacturer, then yes, you want to get named on there.
Yeah, exactly. They're the manufacturer.
CVS isn't the manufacturer. They're just a retail store.
Right.
So
they manufacture a lot of stuff.
Oh, they can. I'm just talking about the retail operation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So their whole thing is like, oh, okay, you want to put your product on our shelves, send me a certificate of insurance. Show me you're insured. Otherwise, you're not getting on there, because we got a line of other people that want to put their stuff on our shelves.
Right, of course, yeah, right.
So that's the whole catch with them there, and they got you that way.
Yeah, because they don't want to just deal with it. But if somebody goes into a store, okay, and they get a product and it fucks them up at CVS, you think that
CVS would get included in the lawsuit because it's where they bought it. Now CVS, their insurance carrier, because they got named on the other person's policy as named insured, they say, okay, no, we're not paying it financially. We're not responsible. That's that person's insurance carrier who's financially responsible is going to pay out this claim. Yeah. So that's where you get the language and everything else.
So you think CVS is, of course they are. That's why they're the best.
Oh yeah, they're doing it big time.
They're making sure that they're not the ones who are being paid.
Unless they're manufacturing itself, but yeah, they don't want to be.
That's the thing. I keep thinking. Of course not. Exactly. I keep thinking if it's they're manufacturing it. If they're manufacturing their own product,
but
of course they should be.
But say you open up your own retail store, okay, and you put somebody's product in there, and you had nothing to do with it, but somebody got their product and.
I should have some type of responsibility for it. I have to do my own due diligence for my customers.
Okay,
what
so
I'm putting
every
on
single
my
dispensary is going to test every single bud that goes through their door. No,
I'd be that guy.
Yeah,
you would. Do you know how much money you're going to waste?
You only need to take a very small little nugget and just whoop, and then I'll know if it's good or not. Yeah, I can quality control that.
Yeah, it's
I do that all day. Like a sommelier for wine, but I do it for cannabis.
Oh yeah, Jacob's saying he'd be the one. He'd be the one.
I'd be the literal guy.
He'd be the tester.
Yeah, I'd sign up for that job in a heartbeat.
Yeah, no.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You got me confused for a second. I'm like,
I don't know if it's an actual job or if anybody would pay me, but if anybody's offering to test their products, hi. How you doing?
Giddy up, baby. No,
but I mean, you're not going to test everything, but there's processes that are in place. Like you have people test their own product before you put it on their shelf. You're not going to do it yourself because it costs too much money to hire somebody of that education to be able to do the testing for every product that comes through.
Yeah, for sure. There's got to be a trust within the industry, and depending all the industries are different and stuff. But I just know
common sense sets in.
Yeah, common sense definitely sets in. But at the same time though, it's I would definitely hold some responsibility for anything that's going out my door.
Correct. Your responsibility would be, I want to see your shit's been tested.
Yeah.
Show me the stuff. So that's your proof. But sometimes
shit happens.
That's why you have insurance.
Yep. Right. Yeah. For sure. Shit happens. No, dude, for sure. Shit happens. I mean, I've been in a car accident. I've been in a car accident before, and not my fault. And next thing you know, what am I going to do? I had a payment on this, and now I would just have to pay this because this car is just gone. I didn't cause this. This wasn't my fault. But now you have to pay it, and you have to, and then the insurance comes in. And I will say that's the thing is it's nice to have the car insurance. They help you with that. They help you pay the car off. They do whatever the value of the car is. That's great. But there's no, you to get a car on the road in most states, it's an extra, $3,000.
You got to pay the registration, the taxes, and
all of it.
Stuff.
Yeah, exactly. It's just maybe not $3,000, but $2,000. Probably $2,000. It's not cheap. Exactly.
Especially for a newer car. Yeah.
Especially for a newer car. Exactly. So it's just kind of shitty, it's not, shouldn't be the insurance's responsibility, but it's just you wish that you could, that should just be baked into it.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't, then there would be a social program for it, but.
Yeah, what do you mean?
So somebody else would have to, help these people become whole
again.
Yeah,
exactly, right.
So that's why it's privatized.
Right, yeah, right, makes sense. Now, you got to, you were in the insurance industry, and and you've been doing well again, creating a book of business. And how I met you was through UCAN, which
UCAN
is
B2B.
UCAN B2B, United Cannabis B2B. So tell me about UCAN B2B a little bit. You're the founder of the group. And
yeah. So going back to my financial planning days again, I did have an interest in working with businesses, and I knew that every business owner needed to have a successful team of an attorney, a CPA, an insurance person, and that mindset in the financial planning world, a financial advisor. You don't really need a financial advisor to be able to operate as a business owner. It's smart to have one. But to be able to operate and get paid and do what you need to do, you need a solid attorney, you need a CPA, and you need an insurance professional that you can trust. And so coming from that and a networking background, I was part of BNI, still am part of a BNI, which is Business Networking International. I got the idea and the concept to start reaching out to professionals that were in the area that were CPAs, attorneys that specialized in cannabis. And I did cold emailing and phone calls and LinkedIn messaging, and I got a handful that responded back to me, and I sat down, had lunch with them, shared the concept with them, and they were like, I'd love that. I mean, there really isn't, a chamber of commerce for cannabis where you have your ancillary business owners that can, build relationships, refer people back and forth to be able to help further and build the cannabis industry and support it even more. Yes, there are stuff that's going on there that is for the cannabis operators, and yes, there are ancillary business owners that are part of it, but there isn't anything that's like combining them, welcoming both of them together. And so I started this in March of 2022 was our first meeting, and there was 10 of us. So I had a couple operators. I had a light guy that was in there from Foz Lights, and then I had a CPA. I had an attorney, a CFO for hire that was specializing in the industry as well too. That was part of the original 10 people that were there to start the meetings, and it was more or less us being able to get together, to collaborate, to talk, and to be able to meet one another in a in an unstructured kind of setting. So I didn't want it to be like a round table where you went around and you had 30 seconds to tell people who you were and what you did and stuff like that. But it was putting together people from the local cannabis community into a rooms where it was up to you to have whatever conversation you wanted. And I mean, you're a product of what's been in there. I mean, you've made multiple connections with people that have helped your business grow. And at the end of the day, that's what the whole premise of it is to help support the cannabis industry grow and these operators grow and get connected with responsible, reliable service providers, attorneys, lighting providers, utility brokers, insurance brokers, credit union just providers in the industry that can be relied on and be trusted and know what they're doing, and not just, type it into Google and hope that the person that spent a ton of money on SEO work is really who they say they are and is one of the better people in the industry. And it's allowed me to also build great relationships with very reputable service providers like AAF CPAs and Jill Cohen from Cohen Law. Built great relationships with them, and they're very reputable, well-known people, and it's gotten me great introductions to operators inside of the state. So the whole premise of it was to build a referral network. And I mean, I've gotten asked not only for like who does the payroll, who does, the attorney work, but I mean, people that have simply just asked to be introduced from, a business standpoint of a manufacturer. And being able to hook them up and link them up, and it makes you look good. So
yeah, it makes you look good. It must make you feel pretty good. It must convert to to doing better in business. For the bottom line for you.
Yes, on the selfish side of it, it does. Yeah.
Well, it's not selfish. It's it's good business practice is what I would call it, because you've built this group. Oh, yeah. You took the time to build this group. You put investment into it. It definitely wasn't paying you off at first. In March, it wasn't paying you back.
Well, I tried to set them up at yes, the first couple of meetings I had, there was no revenue right away.
Well, you just what I'm saying is it just takes time to of course there's no revenue right away, and then of course you've done a great job with it, and that you've had beautiful sponsorship. The last event that we did for people who are are interested in attending one of these events, it was in Biddeford, Maine, at a place called Sublime Taco. Yep. All the food and drinks were paid for. People got to come and hang out.
No
and,
cover
and
charge.
No cover charge, So imagine that at a networking event, you show up, you get the free drinks and free food, and that was just like, it was amazing. It was amazing to see that, and to know that Kyle's providing that for people, Kyle and his group. Like, it's like I try to make every single one of these events if I can.
Appreciate it when you do.
Yeah, of course, dude, and I promote them as well, and it's not just because of it will help my business, and it has helped my business, and through meeting these people, but it's a fun time where this stuff is necessary, getting people together in the a lot of times we're all working separately and we all have different opinions because we're being fed news or whatever, but when you get together with people for a 3-hour period, 3-hour period, and you actually get to sit down, it revitalizes you. It says, okay, I'm actually in the right, I'm in the right spot, I'm doing the right thing, I'm doing this with the right people. And I've told everybody I can about the group, because I think that it's a great service that that is being provided, and then hey, on the back end of it, if you're getting more clients and it's helping your business, then I think that that's something that's likely deserved. You know.
No, I mean, you got to put the work in. I mean, that's why there's the word work inside of networking. It just doesn't grow by itself. You can grow it organically, but it doesn't grow by itself. You got to put the work and the time in. But I mean, it's also a place where people could come and collaborate and feel like they're going to be able to collaborate with the right people in the room and not waste their time. And it'd be a welcoming place. And I've tried to get it to where it's, a lot of the cannabis owners feel like they're in a money grab kind of situation, especially at the beginning, where they felt like they were being poached, and like towns and cities wanted to take advantage of them and get all this money and this and that and everything else from the licensings and stuff. And so they had a bad taste in their mouth. So that was one thing that I didn't want to do, was have like a cover charge or charge them to come in. Yes, there have been events that I've had where people are on their own for food and drink. But I've tried to build really good, solid relationships with these service providers to be able to say, hey, let's sponsor an event. I mean, keep it kind of like between $250 and $500 for a sponsorship, but come in and sponsor and pay for the drink tickets and the appetizers for these service providers that are eventually going to be your clients, or you're trying to be your clients. Right. So it's almost like a mini client kind of like appreciation event, or it's like an industry appreciation event, because they don't have to pay for anything. And in my mind, I don't think they should if somebody else is eventually going to earn some money from doing business with them.
Yeah, it's a nice thing that that people who are, for at least me, that showing people the guys over at AAF, it's like they showed me that they were going to continuously show up, and that's they were willing to put in the time and the effort, and being consistent. Mm-hmm. So that was
very
important.
Very much invested in the industry, very much.
Yeah, so that was important for me to see, and so you're providing that for people who are going as well.
Yeah. So and then taking that and trying to make it, leverage in the way of having the cannabis industry seen in a positive light. So like doing the toy drive that we're doing on December 7th up at Free Street in Portland with Wink, and we're working on a couple more sponsors as well too at this point. But it's a toy drive. We're going to be bringing toys to, we'll be donating toys back to Toys for Tots up there. And then there's also going to be a nonprofit that we'll be donating clothes to as well. And that's all we're going to be asking attendees to bring, is a toy and some clothes to be able to donate back to the shelter that's up there.
Yeah, so, maybe some winter clothes, jackets and hats and stuff,
But it's just giving back. Just trying to have the cannabis industry shown in a positive light, because you got these stigmas. Yeah. And that it's full of a bunch of really good-hearted people at the end of the day. They're trying to do a positive thing. Yeah, we got to do a little bit of extracurricular work to show people, but at the end of the day, it's a great industry with great people that are doing great things.
Yeah. Shouldn't be thrown in the corner. Shouldn't be made to feel like they're that they're less than, or they're not a real industry. Because like you said, there's the greatest people that I know are cannabis operators, and
Correct.
Some of the greatest people I know are cannabis operators, and I think just providing the toy drive and providing that shining, you shine a light, you shine definitely you shine a positive light on that's an important thing, especially that's what like the ancillary businesses, sure, you can take our money and you can help us out, but please, that's what we really need from you guys, is to show a positive light, show us that we're real businessmen. We're not
Correct.
Just people that are out there, we're not stoners,
We care about the community.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sure, we can be stoners too, but like we're real businessmen who care about the community, who need to be taken seriously. And that's what that's what the ancillary businesses, have been doing, for me and my business at least, through those relationships at least. I know that people take me a lot more serious because of the relationships that I've cultivated within those circles, which maybe call it bullshit, maybe call it whatever, but like that is how it is because cannabis is such a new industry. It's such a new industry and it had such a stigmatization about it beforehand that it needed to get to this point where we could openly talk about it. And people like me who are a pharmacist who have, background in mental health and all this stuff can actually be a part and participate in the industry to the fullest extent.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, man. It's a giddy up is what we'd like to call it.
It is definitely a giddy up.
Yeah. So what's the plan? So you have the December 7th is going to be at, what did you call it? Free Street. Okay.
Up in
Portland. Okay.
Yep.
So definitely make that event. What's the plan for UCAN in the future? Is there any, you have any other plans that you got going for it?
So eventually want to build it out a little bit more. I mean, it was more or less supposed to be a group of people that got together on a monthly basis, and it's definitely morphed into more than 15 people to more of like 30, 35 people. And it's definitely gotten more popular as the months have gone on, which has been great. But my next step is to more or less make it a more powerful networking group. There's some people that we have conversations going with that, they want to start possibly doing like a one-off, like in each like city, like Portland, Boston, Portsmouth, Burlington, Vermont. There's these chapters that are out there that you have your insurance agent, you have your attorney, you have your CPA, you have, your ancillary businesses that are there, but, one per profession. And they build a referral network amongst themselves, but also the purpose of it is also, give back to the community and stuff like that that's around there and, increase a positive light in that community of that city for cannabis. So that's something that we may be taking it till. I know I want to expand what services are offered by the networking group. Right now, we do have our membership, which is at $300 a year, and we want to add to be able to add like a podcast to be able to have them on a show like yours to be able to talk about what they do, their impact in the industry, something that's like maybe a 10-minute clip that just gives them an educational moment and allows them, to show everybody that's a part of the group, this is what I do, this is the services that I provide, and this is why you need to talk to me.
Yeah.
So that's stuff that we're thinking about adding on. Again, it's not I don't get paid to do it.
Right.
It's just it's a tool that I use to be able to prospect at the moment, and that's what it was created for. So it is morphing into a little bit more, and just partnering up with the right people and building it out, adding more value to it, and helping other people.
Yeah, I'd love to help you in any way that I can.
I appreciate it
for sure. We'll get some people to come on over here. I don't know if the insurance people and the CPAs and the insurance if they're as interesting as you, but we'll definitely have them on.
I'm sure some of them have some interesting stories.
Everyone has a story for sure, man. And I'm down to sit down with them and talk with them and get that story out. That's why I do it. It's a huge passion of mine to be doing this and for it to be a thing that's possible. Is there like, I was curious, because it's like, we haven't talked about this yet personally, and I figured it'd be a good thing to talk about just, publicly in front of everyone, like podcast insurance. Like, would I need anything for that?
So there is podcast insurance.
Okay.
It's not specifically written as podcast insurance, I don't believe, but there is insurance for podcasts, for people that do podcasts. And that would be more or less like you guys edit this or cut this or put something in there that I didn't really say, or, I had told you behind the scenes, don't put this part of it in there, and you guys released it. I could sue you for that.
Well, yeah, but we do.
That's why you would need insurance.
But we go through the process of that. We've had our attorney write up a release that we have everybody sign who comes onto the show.
When you go to the ski resort, on the back of your ski ticket, what does it say? Can't sue the mountain, right?
Right.
How many people get hurt and sue the mountain?
Probably a lot, but a
lot.
And do they win? Do they win?
Sometimes they do. Most of the time they do if it's big enough to be brought to court. Yeah. So that piece of paper just makes the small stuff go away. And the big stuff, that piece of paper in front of the court won't uphold.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into it more because I was pretty like I was just curious about it.
You
know,
won't
but-
get insurance without that being in place. I'll tell you that.
Right. Yeah. Right. And
So they want that to be able to keep the small stuff away, but the bigger stuff that happens,
right.
that'll come. You'll go right into court.
Right. It's so funny. It's so funny how that is. You know, it's like you have somebody. You know, you create a contract between two people, and like that's the contract. But then there's always nuance to it. So
Correct.
Maybe we'll have
Very
to-
litigious society.
yeah, exactly. Very litigious society for sure. And so maybe we'll have to get some podcast insurance.
It won't be that expensive, but you will need to have that. Yeah, the waiver they're going to want to see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we do the waiver. You know, you signed it.
It's
so.
basic business practices. I did sign that.
Yeah.
But,
What'd you think?
Oh, it was
You'd
good.
insure me?
I would.
Yeah,
But
giddy up.
at the end of the day, if you did something that I didn't agree on and it really hurt me and put me out of business and cost me tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, then yeah.
I know, but that's the thing is like that makes me nervous because like I don't want that to. I'm never gonna do that to anybody, anyways. But also like.
But there are people that aren't of sound mind in this world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's true.
So that's the risk you take is that, one day you may be talking to somebody, you may think they're completely normal, they're completely fine, and, they're a great person, and then something happens, and now they're the worst person in the world, and they're after you for absolutely no reason.
yeah.
It happens to people.
No, I bet. Of course it does. People are weird, man.
There's one-offs that happen all the time. But, yeah, I mean, you don't know. I mean, somebody could have a mental break, change their whole entire mindset on something, and they don't want something that you posted or you put out there.
Yeah,
It's
it just
like that.
I'm excited. Obviously, it makes me nervous, and obviously, like that's that's obviously part of your job to make people see all the risks,
Correct.
And like, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying that in a good way.
Oh, yeah.
And that's I do.
That's a calculated risk you take for the price of whatever it is.
Yeah, right. And I guess I have to do that out now.
Yeah.
That's something I have to think about. That's just. But I at the same time, I just feel like that takes away. Like the release, I feel like I even felt like weird about that at first, because I just didn't want to, you need to do it. It's a necessary thing because I am taking stuff that people are saying, and I'm never editing it and to make it different. And I'm also respectful too. If people want to say something, hey, unless it's something that like I really think is important for the show, like then we'll have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
But if somebody doesn't want me to air something, like I'm probably not going to air it. That's okay. Like we'll see. But actually, that's not true. I don't know. I haven't had a ton of these situations yet to come through, and
I mean, if somebody called you and was like, hey, I'll pay you X amount of money to get this information, and I know you have it.
yeah, you're saying like if I
You
had
were bribed.
yeah, right, yeah, there's definitely right,
So that's another risk, too. So, I mean, that's just like you say it until the check's in front of you.
yeah, I know, man, it's definitely
Especially being in the media kind of world. Some people are privy to some information, not saying that you're going to be privy to some, like, groundbreaking news, but.
right,
Or have an interview with somebody that could be, go to a federal case and somebody wants to get that information and wants to know what it was that was said and you haven't released it to the public yet and somebody's willing to pay you a lot of money.
right, yeah, you gotta go. In that scenario, I'd have to have insurance because
Well, if the person that you ended up hurting, I'll use
it came
appropriate
after me,
words,
right?
came after you.
Because
yeah.
I sold this stuff, right? Which I should be able to do because they're
Because
it's mine.
that on there, I'm sure it says it, that you have the right to do what you want or make
Yep.
money or stuff like that from an economic standpoint, but God forbid, I didn't think it was up to snuff for an attorney. I
right,
didn't think that language was tight enough.
right, yeah,
There's your example of, oh, well, he signed that. Well, guess what? He signed that, but that piece of paper wasn't tight enough. That language wasn't tight enough. It wasn't good enough. There's holes in it.
right, yeah,
I'm not an attorney, so I don't know.
right. No, and we
But that's
did.
what
we,
happens.
Yeah, and we had our attorney look at that, and they said, "Hey, that looks great. That looks awesome."
For what you're gonna have, yes.
for what I'm going to have right now, exactly.
Correct.
But obviously, it's something to
But the
think about.
second you have Barack Obama on the show,
Yeah,
that thing's gonna have to be absolutely redone.
yeah, right, yeah, right, yeah, exactly. You're welcome to come on, Barack. We'd love to talk to you about everything going on in the world right now.
But that kind of like celebrity kind of like status, yes.
Yeah, no, for sure, dude. I think, like you said, and that just maybe that speaks to like a shitty environment that we live in.
Society, yes.
A
It's
society that we
totally
live in.
what it is, yes.
It's
Been
ludicrous
created.
that
Oh,
like,
yeah.
because like that's the thing, like podcast insurance. Like I was expecting you to say like, oh, someone's gonna trip or something on the way out, but like, because I did the release thing.
That's your general liability, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. So then that's already covered. So it's like it's just I want the world to get better. That like and to know that like because like there's nothing that I could that we had if I get people in here, they're having a conversation. They said what they said. I'm not trying to necessarily put them in a bad light or put them in a bad way. And most of the time, I'm actually trying to put them in the best possible way. in the best possible light. And maybe that might not always be the case.
For example, right here, let's say I get into politics and I want to run against cannabis, but I just sat here and I just had this whole interview with you. There's a prime example of how you have this information right now.
Yeah.
And somebody could be like, oh, hey, there's something where I could get him.
Well, no. I would just say Kyle shouldn't be running against cannabis. He sat with me for an hour and a half. Me and Kyle blaze down all the time together.
Exactly. But yeah, people get paid money to release that kind of information. So
no, I know, and that's what I'm
not running for politics anytime soon. So
right, maybe someday.
Probably not.
Okay, yeah, right, I love it. I said the same thing. Maybe someday, but probably not. That's just another sick, gross world that I don't necessarily want to be a part of.
Nope, I'm good.
Yeah, but that's the thing is I want it to just be a society where we can we can talk about things and we're not trying to sue each other for every little thing.
Correct.
And that we're not trying to just get over on one another and but that it is it's very cutthroat. You got to protect yourself. You got to.
I mean, it comes down even to the best friend kind of situation. I had a buddy in high school that dunked on my other buddy's rim, broke the rim, and he ended up ripping his finger. Had to get reconstructive surgery on his hand, and it cost a lot of money. And guess what happened?
The parents went after the other parents.
Yeah, sued them because they knew where the money was in the insurance carriers. So I mean,
yeah, well that's
they're like, and then the other parents are like, well, we know that it's there, and that's what it's used for.
Oh, so that wasn't a bad thing. Exactly.
Well,
let's do that then.
That's the face value.
Right.
I don't know what happened behind the scenes.
Right.
But
right.
That's the face value of, okay, it's there to be used for that. And it's correct. And that's where the other parents were going at. They were like, hey, we know you pay for it. You can't have a mortgage without it.
Right.
My kid was on your property. It was your hoop that broke. And now the kid was an athlete.
Right.
Slammed down on the hoop. But at the same time.
Right.
Family wasn't they're not bajillionaires. I mean,
right.
it's a hefty bill to pay to get reconstructive surgery on your finger after you rip it open. So they needed to cover some of the costs.
For sure.
So they used the tool that was there.
Yep, and that it wasn't necessarily probably a negative thing for the family that got the claim paid out on them.
No, just shit happens.
Just shit happens, right? So it's maybe they maybe it's a little in that situation. I feel like it's a good thing. That it's a great thing that it exists. It's an amazing thing. I just don't want the society to go in the wrong direction. But tell you what, Kyle, we've had an awesome time today,
Same
brother.
here, brother.
It's been an absolute giddy up. Where can the people find you if they want to have any questions about insurance, they want to get insurance or whatever? How can they find you?
I mean, my email is the easiest. It's KYLEC@ECGILLC.com. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
Let's say that one more time.
So that's KYLEC@ECGILLC.com.
Okay. And so that's the best way to get in contact with you.
That's the best way.
Okay, and also too, if you guys need any, if you need to be referred to him through me, just reach out. You guys know how to get in touch with us, and we'll get you in touch with Kyle. It's really been super fun to have you on here, man.
Really enjoyable.
We've been talking about this for a while, and talking about the how insurance can be a good conversation that needs to be had, and it's a good pivot, good point for not pivot. It's a good point for business that everyone needs to understand. I hope that we'll be able to use you as a resource if we have any questions in the future. If anybody has any insurance questions,
Absolutely.
or if, on the show we have anything that comes up, when we go get our podcast insurance, we know who we're going through. So, everybody, thank you so much for being with us today. It was an amazing show as usual. If you have any questions about insurance, if you have any questions about BeeWell, you know where to reach us. And until next time, that's a giddy up. We'll see ya.